Hi, everyone. Good morning. This is Rosemary Koo, the Chief Medical Officer of United Ag, and thank you so much for joining us today for our health chats, where we're going to be talking about vaccines. But first, I just want to thank our sponsors, Blue Shield of California, Elite Medical, Gallagher, and Sain. Thank you so much for supporting our health chats programming. And for today, we're actually going to be going over the COVID-19 vaccine updates. There are a lot of FAQs around the vaccine still, so we'll go over some of the most frequently asked questions and bust some myths in that process. I'll also go over general adult vaccine recommendations that are often forgotten for adults. So that's really great to talk to your provider about those vaccine recommendations in case you haven't gone over it with your doctor. And then lastly, we'll talk through United Ag resources, and we'll leave the floor open for questions and answers. So first of all, the most important updates over the last several months has really been the age of eligibility. The primary series of vaccines, which is the first set of vaccines that you get to be considered fully vaccinated, is now available to those people starting at 6 months of age, which is wonderful because then you can vaccinate your babies and young children. The boosters are available starting for people who are 5 years or older. This is except for those who've gotten the Moderna vaccine, though. Children and adolescents who've gotten the Moderna vaccine do not currently need boosters. But if you've got Pfizer, then you do, or you are eligible for boosters starting at age 5. And then we also have the newest vaccine option on the market in the US, which is Novavax. This is a really great option because it is more like the traditional vaccine options that we have seen typically, which is it's actually a protein subunit. So this is not an mRNA vaccine. That's why it took much longer for it to get to market. Now, even though it was just recently authorized, it might not be widely available locally. So talk to your providers or your pharmacies nearby to see if it's available if you're interested in this. I know a lot of people still haven't gotten their primary vaccine series, mostly because of fears around the mRNA vaccine. And so if you or anyone you know are in that boat, Novavax might actually be a great option for you because it is much more like the traditional vaccines because it's protein-based. It's only authorized for adults, though, people 18 years and older. And similar to the other, and there are no approved boosters for this yet because it's so new. And then addition to that, so we'll go over the booster recommendations because that's really top of mind for a lot of people right now. And these are the booster recommendations for adults that are not necessarily immunocompromised. This is for the general population of people 18 years and older. Of note, the mRNA vaccine is the preferred vaccine type for booster doses versus the J&J vaccine. So you will either want Pfizer or Moderna specifically for the booster doses. If you received Pfizer or Moderna for your primary series of vaccines, most people will generally want to get their booster after 5 months after the last shot in the primary series. Now, if you are immunocompromised, you'll want to talk to your doctor to see if you should be getting the shot earlier. It could be given as early as 3 months after the last shot in the primary series for those who have immunocompromised systems. And that includes people with a lot of chronic conditions or those who have gone through cancer treatment or have other health conditions that might affect their immune system. The second booster is usually given 4 months after the first booster, but this is typically only for people who are 50 years or older or immunocompromised. So for the general population of adults, you typically only need 1 booster 5 months after your last shot. If you receive the J&J vaccine as your primary vaccine series, you'll want to boost of either Pfizer or Moderna 2 months after your primary dose. And you'll want the second booster 4 months after if you are 50 years or older or immunocompromised. Now, early on, people were getting the J&J dose as a booster, so they would get it as their primary vaccine, but then they would also might get it as their booster. If this is the case and you don't have any booster doses that were actually one of the mRNA vaccines, you'll want a second booster of either Pfizer or Moderna about 4 months after your J&J booster. I know this can get kind of confusing. The CDC has wonderful guidelines around this, but if you have any questions about whether you're due for your booster or what shot you should get for your booster, talk to your doctor about it, because they can go over your medical history and give you the best personalized recommendation. And then, as I mentioned before, there's currently no booster recommendations for Novavax yet. So that means that if you get the Novavax vaccine, we don't know yet when or if you need a booster. And the Novavax is not currently authorized as a booster dose if you received any of the other vaccines previously. This will probably be updated over the next few weeks or months. In other countries across the world, it's already authorized as a booster dose. So we'll see what happens in the US for our own recommendations. And we can jump into the FAQs. I've heard this one a lot, is that, we look all around us, there's a lot of people who are fully vaccinated, completely up to date on their vaccines. Maybe they're even boosted twice, and they're still getting COVID. And so seeing all these people who are vaccinated or boosted, people often wonder, why should I even stay up to date on my vaccines? And I think the most important thing to remember here is that the vaccine is not meant to protect against just any infection. The greatest value vaccines have is really protecting against severe infection, hospitalization, and death. And so while it can keep you from getting sick, but if you get sick once you have been vaccinated, most likely you're actually experiencing much milder illness than you would have if you didn't get vaccinated at all. So just because people might be getting COVID, even though they're vaccinated or boosted, that doesn't mean that you shouldn't get vaccinated at all, because it does provide additional protection and gets the most severe forms of the illness. Secondly, a lot of people feel that if they've gotten sick from COVID before they recovered, they don't need to be vaccinated later on. And this isn't true. Unfortunately, people who do get sick from COVID and recover are more likely to get COVID again if they don't get vaccinated. They're in fact 2 times more likely to get COVID again if they haven't been vaccinated. So, if you have gotten COVID before, it's wonderful that you have that natural immunity, but you also want to increase your protection by also getting vaccinated or getting your boosters. Also, a lot of people ask if they're currently sick with COVID, should they be getting their vaccine at that time? And the answer is no. If you're currently sick with COVID, you have to still wait out your isolation period, depending on how your symptoms progress. And you don't want to go into the healthcare system or really leave your house if you're still within that highly infectious window. So you have to wait until you're out of your isolation period to go get your vaccine. You do have the option, though, of waiting around 3 months before you get your next vaccine dose, though, because within that first few months of getting sick, your body has built up some immunity and you're less likely to get reinfected right after getting COVID. However, if there's a lot of local spread of the infection, it might not make sense to wait. So if you've gotten sick with COVID and you're due for your next away to just have that extra protection in the near term. All right, I also hear this question a lot is, do I have to wait between getting the COVID vaccine and other vaccines? This is often asked around flu season when people might be due for their boosters, and they also need the flu vaccine at the same time. It's totally fine to get it's totally fine to get the COVID vaccine and another vaccine at the same visit. They'll just typically do it in 2 different locations. Now, this is a question really about terminology. What am I considered up to date on my COVID vaccines? So there's basically 2 different terms that has been used a lot by the CDC. One is like the phrase up to date, and then one is fully vaccinated. And it can be kind of confusing, but a lot of their guidelines rely on an understanding of the difference between fully vaccinated and being up to date. Fully vaccinated is basically when you're 2 weeks after your primary series of vaccines. So that's basically like saying you have a foundational level of immunity against COVID-19. But you're not necessarily up to date until you've had all the boosters that you're eligible for. And so say you've gotten your primary series, but you don't get any of your boosters and you're due for your boosters, then you are considered fully vaccinated, but you're not up to date. And alternatively, if you've gotten your primary series and you've gotten all the boosters that you are eligible for or due for, then you are immediately up to date after. And here's a great question to make sure that people are clear about is it is never too late to get the vaccine. There are plenty of people, as I said earlier, who have never gotten a single shot of any COVID vaccine. And you might feel like, it's too late. If I haven't gotten it by now, I don't need to get vaccinated. It's not true. You can get your primary series really anytime or get your boosters anytime, even if you might be way overdue for them. So talk to your doctor about, whether or not you should get one or what type, but it's really never too late to get any of the vaccines in the series or boosters. So I'm going to switch gears here to talk about additional adult vaccine recommendations that are often forgotten. And so if you meet any criteria for any of these vaccines, please talk to your doctor, remind them that you might be due and that you should get them. Influenza is one that usually people don't forget. You're due for this every year. We at United Ag really push for flu vaccine campaigns, which we'll talk about a little bit later on. But that one's the pretty common one that most people are aware of. Shingles age. So a lot of people, in their 30s or 40s might actually have an episode of shingles, and they think that just because they had the episode, they don't need the vaccine. But you should really still get that vaccine against shingles starting at age 50, regardless of if you've had an episode before. Pneumococcal vaccines help protect against really deadly pneumonia infections, and that starts at age 65. There are different regimens of the pneumococcal vaccine. So once you get close to that age range, or if you have any immunocompromising conditions that might prompt you to have your pneumococcal vaccine earlier, talk to your doctor about what is your personal schedule for getting your pneumococcal vaccine. Varicella is one that's often forgotten. This is for chickenpox. A lot of us have actually had chickenpox, and so this doesn't really apply to people who have immunity from getting infected. But if you're an adult, you've never had chickenpox before, or you're not sure, and you never got the chickenpox vaccine earlier in life, then you are due for it. You're never too old to really get the chickenpox vaccine. So even, as kind of an adult, if you're not sure you've had chickenpox as a child, you should still get vaccinated from it. Tdap is a combination of tetanus, diphtheria, and pertussis. Generally, this is given every 10 years, but should also be given with each pregnancy to provide additional protection, especially against pertussis or whooping cough. Human papillomavirus is one that is also often forgotten. So this is for women specifically to protect against certain high-risk strains of human papillomavirus that could lead to warts and cervical cancer. And this is often given early in life in either like late childhood or early adolescence. But some people do miss the series early in life. And so if you're an adult, you've never had your series for human papillomavirus, talk to your doctor about whether or not you should be receiving it. And then hepatitis B is another series of vaccines that is usually given earlier in life. But a lot of times for adults, especially if you've come from a different country, you might not actually have your full hepatitis B vaccine series, and it should be really given as an adult if you're not sure if you've had it before. Also, in addition, sometimes people's immunity towards hepatitis B decreases a lot as people get older. And so if your doctor does a full hepatitis panel, just to screen for any liver conditions or STDs or anything like that, and they find that you don't have the titers for hepatitis B, they might actually recommend that you repeat the full hepatitis B vaccine series if they don't see immunity in your blood. So that's just something to keep in mind here. And then moving back to flu, as I mentioned earlier, we are very, aggressive and supportive about making sure all of our employers have access to flu or access to the flu vaccine. And I'd love to have Heidi talk a bit about what we're doing in terms of flu campaigns.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Rosemary, for the introduction. My name is Heidi Valdivinos. I am the membership manager here at United Ag, and I wanted to talk today a little bit about the 2022 Fight the Flu campaign that we are starting. We're actually taking registrations for any organizations that are near our health and wellness centers that are interested in having on-site flu vaccination events. This is a great opportunity for your organization to have these on-site events and hopefully optimize as many employees to receive the flu vaccine as possible. We actually are meeting next Thursday during our Ops Forum, Thursday, August 18th at 10 a.m. Myself, as well as Christina Morley, our Client Services Manager, will be speaking further about these on-site events, specifications and qualifications. And also we will have a member of our wellness team, Ilse Tejeda, that she is our family medicine physician assistant, and she will be on the call as well, talking about the benefits of the on-site flu shot events and flu shots in general. So if you're interested in attending, we'd love to have you next week. And if you have any questions in the meantime, please feel free to reach out to me. You can email me at hvaldivinos@unitedag.org or give us a call. And otherwise, I look forward to seeing you next week on Thursday, August 18th at 10 a.m.
Great. Thanks so much, Heidi. Heidi and her team are complete rock stars, and they will take care of you and your employers when it comes to the flu vaccine campaigns. And then I'll also ask Maribel to chime in here to talk a bit about the resources that we have through Costco Health Solutions.
Thank you, Rosemary. Good morning, everyone. Costco Health Solutions has indicated that as early as beginning of September, their regional pharmacies, meaning Costco Health Solution pharmacies, which are located at your local Costco, will have the flu shot available. With that, also all of our in-network pharmacies should also have the flu shot available around the same time. If you don't know if your pharmacy is in network, I suggest that you visit our CostcoHealthSolutions.com site, and you can look up your pharmacy and or find a pharmacy that is in network. That's it.
Great. Thanks so much, Maribel. And we can open up the floor to any questions.
Actually, Rosemary, I'm going to do something new this time. I'm
Sure.
going to unmute everyone.
Mhm.
Let's hear from the audience. So if you have a question, go ahead and chime in.
I have a question.
Is there a question?
Or I have a question. This is Heidi.
Oh, go ahead.
Regarding the HPV vaccine, I thank you for that information, Rosemary. I heard about it when I was younger, but I didn't realize that that's something that you can get as an adult. I thought that it was just for teenage or young adults. So that is possible to get vaccinated as an adult as well.
Yes, it's totally vaccinated. It's totally possible to get that series as an adult. Just talk to your doctor about whether or not you really need it, though, because oftentimes they will go through your history and whether or not you're at risk at all for HPV. And if they feel that someone's not at risk of HPV, they won't necessarily recommend it. But it's always good to ask your provider because they might not ask you about it right off the bat. But yes, it's definitely a misconception that a lot of people feel like if they missed it as an adolescent or teen, that I think I see Richard's hand up.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes. Can you hear me?
Oh, yes.
Hi, I had a quick question. Is monkeypox something we should be concerned about? And is there a vaccine available that protects against it? And should we get it?
That's a great question, Richard. Well, first of all, it is something that we should be careful about. But there are certain features of the monkeypox virus that allows us to protect ourselves a little bit easier versus something like COVID because of the way it's spread. And so even if you're not vaccinated, you can take measures. So it's primarily spread through close skin to skin contact. And it's usually, to our knowledge so far, it's really only primarily spread when someone starts to show symptoms. And so, people should be watching out, if they're developing a rash anywhere, to be really careful about minimizing exposure to other people. So because it's spread primarily once you're already symptomatic and through very close skin contact, it spreads a little bit less easily than something like COVID. The vaccines are available, but the local availability does vary pretty much across the country. So if it's available to you locally, talk to your doctor about whether or not it makes sense to get it. Because the allocations vary a lot county to county.
Great, thank you.
Thank you for that great question. Any other questions? All right, well, if there are no other questions, I will actually turn it back to Maribel to see if there are any other announcements. If not, we'll make sure this presentation is posted online and you can always reach out to us if there are more questions that come up later on.
Thank you, Rosemary. And that concludes our health chats. But just a friendly reminder to join us next week for our Ops Forum, where we will continue the conversation about the importance of vaccines and flu shots and how to conduct a flu shot event at your company. If you have any questions, please feel free to email membership@unitedag.org or give us a call. And with that, I hope you all have a wonderful week. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Bye.